Human history is invention, to help figure out and improve our world. And some of those leaps have been massive, both in size and in what they meant for civilization. From the wheel and axle to the quantum computer, these machines didn't just work. They shifted the course of history. So join us as we count down 15 machines that changed the world more than any others. Number 15, the airplane. On December 17, 1903, two creative and friendly brothers from Dayton lifted a few feet off the ground, and nothing was the same after that. Orville and Wilbur Wright's plane at Kitty Hawk flew just 120 feet in 12 seconds, but it cracked open the sky. For centuries, people had dreamed of flight. Hot air balloons got us up there, but never in control. The Wrights solved that puzzle, lift, thrust, and steering, by shaping their wings right, building a light engine, and creating a control system that let pilots actually fly. Within a decade, airplanes weren't novelties. They were tools of war. By the 1920s and 30s, passenger airlines were shrinking the planet. Aviation legends like Lindbergh and Earhart made headlines, while aircraft like the DC-3 made flying practical. Then came the devastating World War III, sorry too, and planes changed battlefields forever. Jet engines followed, airports grew, and today, billions fly each year. That 120-foot flight didn't just change travel, it changed how we see distance, time, and each other. Number 14, the telegraph. This thing brought a seismic shift in communication, turning messages from multi-day trips into near-instant transmissions. Before it, letters moved by foot, train, or ship. In the late 1700s, scientists like Alessandro Volta and André-Marie Ampère showed electricity's potential to carry signals. But not until the 1830s and 40s did practical systems emerge. Samuel Morse in the U.S. and Charles Wheatstone with William Cooke in Britain built working networks. Morse's single-wire system used dots and dashes, Morse code, sent by tapping a key. On the receiving end, the pulses moved a pen or made clicking sounds. In 1844, he sent the first major message, "What hath God wrought?" Telegraph wires soon lined railroads, linking cities and speeding coordination. A transatlantic cable succeeded in 1866, linking continents in minutes. Markets, military planning, news agencies, everything changed. Though phones and radio would follow, the telegraph introduced the modern expectation of instant communication. Number 13, the steam engine. This engine is one of the most revolutionary machines in history. While steam power had been explored since ancient times, like Hero of Alexandria's Aeolipoli in the 1st century CE, it wasn't until the 1700s that it became a functional force. In 1712, Thomas Newcomen introduced the atmospheric steam engine to pump water from coal mines. It created a vacuum using steam, driving a piston that lifted water out of the shafts. Though effective, it guzzled coal. Still, hundreds of Newcomen engines were built across Britain. But true transformation came in the 1760s and 70s when James Watt added a separate condenser, slashing fuel waste. He also redesigned the engine to produce rotary motion, letting it power machines, not just pumps. Watt's 1775 partnership with Matthew Boulton helped spread the engine to factories, replacing water wheels and untethering industry from rivers. Steam reshaped transport, fueling railways and ships, shrinking travel time, connecting markets, and triggering cultural shifts. It powered the rise of the modern world. Number 12, the spinning jenny. The jenny was created by James Hargreaves in 1764, and it was a game-changer in textile manufacturing. Before its invention, yarn spinning was painfully slow. One worker could only spin a single thread at a time, holding back production. Hargreaves's invention changed the thing by letting one person spin multiple spools at once. His first version spun 8 threads, but later models handled over 100. Some say the name Jenny came from engine, Others claim it was his daughter's name. The device used a frame to hold spindles, and one wheel turned them all simultaneously. A sliding carriage stretched fibers while a clamp held them steady, allowing one worker to produce far more yarn. Output surged overnight, meeting growing demand from Britain's booming textile sector. Though hand spinners resisted, smashing his machines in protest, the efficiency couldn't be ignored. By the 1780s, the jenny was a staple. It linked British textile power to colonial raw materials and rewired the whole world economy. Number 11. The telephone. When Bell made that first phone call in 1876, "Mr. Watson, come here, I want to see you," he opened the door to a whole new kind of connection. This wasn't just another invention. It turned communication into conversation. Unlike the telegraph, which sent coded taps, the telephone carried the human voice itself. Bell and his assistant figured out how to turn sound into electrical signals and back again. By 1877, people were building the first phone lines. Manual switchboards came next, letting users connect through human operators. Over time, systems improved. Rotary dials, then touch tone. Eventually, no wires at all. But even from the beginning, the impact was huge. Businesses could respond in real time. Families could stay close, even far apart. It changed how we made plans, broke news, or just talked. That crackling voice on the other end? It was something new, personal, direct, and instant. From desk phones to smartphones, it started with one line: "I want to see you." Number 10. The internal combustion engine. If the steam engine powered the 19th century, this one owned the 20th. It was smaller, lighter, faster, and far more flexible, ideal for cars, trucks, planes, and ships. At its core, it's all about explosions. A fuel-air mix ignites inside a cylinder, driving a piston that turns motion into power. Unlike steam engines, which needed bulky boilers, this thing created force from inside. In 1860, Etienne Lenoir built a gas-powered engine that proved it could work. But it was Nicolas Otto, in 1876, who made it efficient with his four-stroke cycle. Daimler and Maybach cranked it up in the 1880s with smaller, faster versions. Carl Benz followed with a full-blown gasoline car in 1886. By the early 1900s, combustion engines were driving everything: cars, buses, and even the Wright brothers' first plane. It changed cities, economies, and geopolitics. Oil became power, roads stretched out like veins. Despite the smog and the cost, this engine rewrote how we moved, worked, and lived. Number 9. The radio. Radio was more than a wireless listening machine. It became a presence. In the 1860s, Maxwell laid the theory. Hertz proved it could work. Then, in the 1890s, Marconi pushed it into reality, sending signals miles away, then across the Atlantic. Early radio was Morse code, mostly for ships. When the Titanic sank, wireless messages summoned help. But then came voice. Reginald Fessenden broadcast speech and music in 1906, and radio changed tone completely. By the 1920s, it was everywhere. News, sports, music, broadcast into homes across America and Europe. Families gathered around wooden boxes, listening together. Leaders like FDR used it to speak directly to citizens. Technological leaps, vacuum tubes, shortwave, transistors made it smaller, stronger, global. Even with TV, internet, and streaming, radio still endures. It didn't just inform. It connected, it comforted, and it moved with you. Do you still have a radio? Number 8. The computer. Long before laptops and smartphones ruined our lives, the computer started off as a clunky mechanical number cruncher. In the 1600s, minds like Pascal and Leibniz built machines to speed up math. Charles Babbage took it further in the 1800s with his analytical engine, a machine that could, in theory, be programmed. Ada Lovelace saw it coming. machines that could think beyond numbers. By the 1940s, computing had turned electric. ENIAC was a room full of vacuum tubes and wires, but it worked faster than anything before. Then came the transistor in 1947, and suddenly computers could shrink. Integrated circuits in the 60s, microprocessors in the 70s, it all led to the personal computer boom, the Apple II, the IBM PC, and then the Internet. From spreadsheets to streaming, the computer embedded itself in daily life. Sure, it brought problems, surveillance, cybercrime, and dependency, but it also gave us tools to work, learn, create, and connect. It didn't just calculate, it redefined how we live. Number 7. The mechanical clock. The mechanical clock's arrival in medieval Europe revolutionized how time was tracked and used. Before it, people depended on sundials, water clocks, and candles, methods limited by nature. The first true mechanical clocks appeared in the 13th century monasteries, built to regulate prayer hours using gears, weights, and a verge escapement. Unlike earlier tools, these clocks ticked steadily, regardless of sunlight. One of the earliest known examples came from Dunstable Priory in 1283. Soon, churches and cathedrals, like Salisbury, installed large tower clocks. Early models didn't have dials or hands, they just rang bells. As clockmaking advanced, makers added hands, increased accuracy, and refined mechanics. The verge escapement was key. It regulated energy from falling weights to keep the gears moving evenly. These clocks let entire towns coordinate work, trade, and daily routines. Time shifted from a natural rhythm to a mechanical one. By the Renaissance, cities like Nuremberg and Florence led innovation, and timekeeping became essential to commerce, science, labor, and modern civilization. Number 6. The light bulb. Though most link the light bulb to Edison, its invention was the result of decades of effort by many inventors. By the late 1800s, the electric light became one of the most defining technologies ever created, bringing instant illumination with the flick of a switch. In 1802, Humphrey Davy introduced arc lamps by channeling current between two carbon electrodes. These burned bright but weren't practical. They produced intense heat and drained power quickly. The real challenge? Finding a filament that could glow without burning out. In 1878, Joseph Swan in Britain used carbonized paper, and around the same time, Edison developed a longer-lasting filament and, crucially, a full system: wiring, generators, sockets. In 1879, he demonstrated a bulb that ran for hundreds of hours. Electric light reshaped daily life, extending work hours, reducing fire risks, and brightening homes, streets, and cities. Later improvements like tungsten, fluorescence, halogen, and LEDs only expanded its impact. It's a vital thing. Number 5. The Internet. The Internet isn't a single device, but it's one of the most powerful machines humanity ever built. It's a web of servers, fiber optic cables, satellites, routers, and data centers linking billions across the globe. It began during the Cold War, when the U.S. funded ARPANET in the 1960s to explore a communication network that could survive disruption. Packet switching, splitting data into pieces and reassembling it later, was the core idea. In 1969, UCLA and Stanford exchanged the first message. Through the 80s, as personal computers spread and new protocols emerged, the network grew. In 1989, Tim Berners-Lee introduced the World Wide Web, pairing hypertext with a browser to make the internet usable. That changed everything. Suddenly, anyone could access info, upload content, share ideas. From forums to social networks, blogs to streaming, the internet became the new public square. It made the world smaller and louder. It's not just a tool, it's the system that modern life now runs on. Number 4. The wheel and axle. They simple, but it's one of history's most groundbreaking inventions. First appearing over 5,000 years ago, this combo allowed circular motion to be converted into practical movement, changing everything from transport to industry. Early wheels date back to Mesopotamia around 3,500 BCE. Archaeologists found clay models of wheeled carts and later full-scale vehicles. These weren't just logs rolled under cargo. True wheels were crafted from planks, later improved with spokes. But the real breakthrough was pairing the wheel with a fixed axle so it could rotate while supporting weight. This unlocked carts and wagons pulled by animals, amplifying human labor and travel. Beyond hauling, the wheel powered pottery turntables and drove machines through pulleys and gears. It fueled trade routes, war machines, and early economies. Even now, wheels turn in engines, turbines, gearboxes, and more. It's everywhere, quiet but crucial. Without them, everything from agriculture to space travel would have looked dull. Number 3. The printing press. When Johannes Gutenberg introduced the movable type press in the mid-1400s, he didn't just improve printing, he launched a revolution. Before that, books were copied by hand, mostly in monasteries. They were expensive, rare, and painfully slow to produce. Gutenberg's press, completed around 1440, changed that. He combined metal movable type, oil-based ink, and a screw press adapted from winemaking. Pages could now be set, inked, and printed repeatedly. His most famous work, the 42-line Bible, was printed around 1455. Nearly 180 copies were made, many still surviving today. By 1500, over 20 million books had been printed, covering religion, science, and literature. The press gave rise to mass literacy, challenged authority, and fueled movements like the Reformation and Scientific Revolution. Luther's theses, Newton's laws, Shakespeare's words, all spread faster because of it. Gutenberg's invention broke the gatekeeping of knowledge. It didn't just make books cheaper, it changed how humans think, learn, question, and share ideas. That impact never stopped. All right, guys, now let's move to Number 2. The refrigerator. Among life-changing machines, the refrigerator often gets overlooked, but its influence runs deep. It changed not just how we store food, but how we eat, cook, shop, and live. For centuries, food preservation depended on salting, drying, smoking, or hauling ice from frozen lakes. Spoilage was constant. Diets were seasonal and limited. Mechanical refrigeration began in 1748, when William Cullen demonstrated vapor-based cooling. It wasn't usable yet, but inventors kept building. In the early 1800s, Jacob Perkins patented a compression-based system. By 1876, Carl von Linde's ammonia-cooled design revolutionized breweries and meatpacking. Household models came later. In 1913, Fred W. Wolfe introduced one of the first electric refrigerators. But early models used dangerous gases like methyl chloride. In the 1920s to 30s, Freon made home refrigeration safer. By the 1950s, it became standard in U.S. kitchens. Number 1. The cotton gin. When Eli Whitney patented it in 1794, he couldn't have imagined how deeply it would impact the world. Though simple in design, its consequences were big. Before the gin, removing seeds from short staple cotton was tedious. One person might spend an entire day cleaning a single pound. Whitney's gin used rotating wire teeth and a mesh screen to separate seeds from fibers, cutting hours into minutes. A brush cleared the drum, readying it for more cotton. The result? A production explosion across the American South. Cotton farming surged in Georgia, Mississippi, and Alabama. Whitney had wished to lower labor needs. Instead, slavery expanded, plantations spread, and enslaved populations soared. By the 1860s, the U.S. supplied 2/3 of the world's cotton. This cotton fed British and European mills, powering industrial growth. The cotton gin reshaped agriculture, trade, and geopolitics, but also chained prosperity to slavery. Despite its innovation, its legacy remains tied to both economic rise and moral failure. If you've enjoyed this video, like and subscribe. Thanks for hanging with us, and we'll see you very soon.